In a few moments, 2 people will die.
I'm gonna have to kill you both.
No, Ethel!
Suspense that will shatter your nerves as Fat Ethel, with a maniac's cunning, terrorizes her numerous victim.
Do you think I'm gonna let you starve me?
Another kind of monster is loose, and death follows each time that Ethel reaches for the meat cleaver. Gluttonous Ethel, whose love of food in enormous amounts was equaled only by her immense joy in killing.
What's this blood all over the floor?
Welcome to the All-Star Video Podcast. This is podcast number 1. I'm here with John Moret.
That's me.
That's him. And we're going to discuss a couple of movies, if you could call them 2 movies. Death Nurse 1 and 2 by auteur Nick Millard. Start with Death Nurse 1. Death Nurse was released in 1987. It was shot on beta tape, and it is a whopping 60 minutes long. Death Nurse will shock you. It isn't scary, it isn't gory, it isn't chilling, it's bad. I mean, bad. Easily one of the worst movies of all time. Sure, you've heard movies are bad before, certain movies, you know, here and there, but you haven't seen bad until you've seen Death Nurse. This is one of those rare bad movies that really... I hate this phrase, but it totally separates the men from the boys. It's, I think it's seriously it's squirt hockey compared to the NHL. It is Pop Warner League compared to the NFL. It's brutal. So, with that being said, Death Nurse.
Death Nurse.
Basically, to run down the plot very quickly, we don't like to dwell on these things too much. We encourage you to go view the movie. If you haven't yet, certainly do so. The plot is basically, there's a nurse. Her name's Edith Morley. Her brother is a doctor. They run Shady Palms Clinic, and they have arranged a plan with social services in the county to care for people on their dime, on the county's dime. So they charge a lot of money to these people, and then as the money comes in, they charge the county for surgeries and different other whatever, even though other services, but they end up killing the patients shortly after they arrive, and they just collect the money. So that's the plot of Death Nurse.
And that's basically the entire film. I mean, and it's like when they're doing operations. So it begins with an operation, right? Like, isn't the kind of the opening shot? So Edith is handing her brother Gordon.
Yep.
Implements as he asks for them, like scalpel, sponge,
Right.
and then you find out the scalpels are like steak knives with like sweet like wooden ends. And then it cuts to a shot of like a dude's stomach with like lots and lots of knives in it.
Yeah, he has like 12 knives jammed into his stomach, and that's the surgery he was apparently performing.
Yeah.
And this is just kind of maybe a little bit of an offshoot of where we might be going here, but I find it humorous and amazing at the same time that he's performing these surgeries, and the character playing Gordon acts as if he's actually performing heart surgery. Like, you know, he's actually training to be a doctor or something.
Right, and he wants to keep trying different types of surgery.
Yeah, like there's discussion of them wanting to try brain surgery and things like that. And it's when you see the result of his surgery, you see steak knives coming out of a stomach.
So I think a little bit. So we'll place these kind of in context. So it's Nick Millard, who it seems to me like he's in San Francisco, just based on
this.
Okay, so he is.
He's. My understanding is that. Well, I guess we could go back to He's most well known for a movie called Criminally Insane, which also starred Priscilla Alden, who plays Edith Mortley in Death Nurse.
Okay.
Before Criminally Insane, he pretty much made porn. That was his game. That was his in to the industry.
Wow. That I did not know. Like, are there titles that you have? Like, if we should look him up, because I'm curious to see what he was doing in porn, because it's not as if
it was probably like swanky 70s, like, hey, check it out, porn. That's my.
And what's his name? He's credited as someone else in this movie. Nick Phillips?
Nick Phillips, yes.
Is that right? Okay.
I think that might have been his porno name.
Okay.
Maybe not.
So it's either one or the other. Either he's trying to separate from the porn stuff, or he's trying to get away, right?
So just a couple of porn credits here I found.
Okay, good. Here we go.
Nudes on credit.
Nice.
The Tarts.
All right. Pretty good.
The Slut.
Ooh.
Vicious Blonde.
Uh-huh. Sex Weirdo? I just saw Sex Weirdo. That's pretty good.
So he has a massive amount of credits that are like porno. Fire in Her Bed.
That's pretty good.
And then actually, it looks like, looking at the timeline, the first movie he released that wasn't a porno was Satan's Black Wedding.
In 1975.
And that was the same year of Criminally Insane.
Okay. Yep. And it's not. I mean, because it's not as if you wouldn't be able to shoot those two movies at the same time, because it's the same footage, right?
I haven't watched, honestly, Satan's Black Wedding. I put it on. I have it. I put it on once, and I was like, wow, okay. And I didn't really pursue it any further than watching it for 20 minutes or so. I don't think so. I think they're pretty well different.
Okay.
But Criminally Insane it's not a good movie, but it's serviceable, especially for the time, as an exploitation movie. It was also extremely short, but it was shot on film, obviously. Back then,
and you can tell.
Yeah, they didn't shoot it on video, because back then video wasn't really a thing. So the interesting thing about Death Nurse is that, I guess since we're talking about it, Criminally Insane has these death scenes where Priscilla Alden as crazy fat Ethel, Ethel, not Edith, chops up these guys.
Makes sense.
Edith Mortley in Death Nurse is played by Priscilla Alden, and they use flashbacks from Criminally Insane
for half the movie.
For about half the movie. Like, it's honestly, they go to this old footage of Criminally Insane about 6 or 7 times.
I mean, you can tell he's so pleased with this footage. I mean,
yes.
I mean, because he cuts to it both in Death Nurse 2, and Cemetery Sisters, and all of which use the same footage a lot. Also, I mean, granted, it's pretty shocking footage. I mean, it's pretty messed up.
Yeah, but the thing is, and that's all how it's cut together, because it doesn't really play that way much in the movie while you're watching it, not in Criminally Insane. But also, to note, the credit sequence, Death Nurse doesn't have its own title cards.
Right.
It has a title card, I should say. It has a title card that says Death Nurse. And then it shows the credits from Criminally Insane. So the actors and the cinematographer and whoever else who worked on Criminally Insane is credited in Death Nurse, even though they did not work on Death Nurse. Because Death Nurse is one of those movies. You can tell it's Nick Millard. He got some friends together and was like, "Hey, I have this, production quality video camera. Let's make a movie in my condo."
It's pretty good. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
So he shoots it in his condo. This is like late 80s.
Yeah. I think the condo was in Pacifica, California, is what he says in the audio commentary.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I recognized there's a scene from Criminally Insane where she's wearing like this huge red robe running in front of the San Francisco like wharf. So I was like, oh, it must be San Francisco. Got it.
Yeah.
And they're all these movies, at least that I've seen, are all shot in his condo or right around the condo.
Yeah, and I know that his follow-up to Criminally Insane, well, maybe it's not, but I thought that the movie after Criminally Insane, which is 357 Magnum, was shot in the condo, from what I understand.
Okay, got it.
That might have been the first one shot in the condo, because Criminally Insane shot in a big house.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense, because then there's like the stairs and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Cemetery Sisters, it's amazing. Like, you see the exact same office with the same shot, the same exact shot of one of the sisters using the same telling machine. Like, it's like, wow, this is amazing. It's like it's almost as if he's remaking the movie over and over and over, exactly like something like Your Brother Remember or something. You know, it's almost like this strange art house
it's
film.
Like he's making the same movie over again with like younger stars.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So his wife Frances Millard, is that her name?
I think
Wife
Frances Millard is the mother.
Okay.
And yeah, his mom's in this movie.
Yeah. Okay, it's his mom. Messed up.
Ermi Millard is his wife.
Okay, got it.
And Ermi plays a patient in the first Death Nurse. Well, she's in both Death Nurse movies, but she plays a drunk recovering in Shady Palms Clinic, and Gordon likes to go to her and trade alcohol for sex.
Yep.
So that's Gordon's game. He likes to keep Nick Millard's wife alive and have sex with her. And as the movie progresses, Edith gets a call and wants to bring in a patient. The county wants to bring in a patient, and the social service worker, what's her name? I can't remember the character's name.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
She's a social services character.
Yeah, it's played by Nick Millard's mom, and she's very old.
Okay, so that's Frances. Okay, got it. I was having a hard time placing who was who here.
Yeah, she's very old, and it's very strange to see her in this movie because it's an elderly woman. And she brings a patient in.
And I think
the first patient is played by Nick Millard.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Got it. He's also the first guy to die in Cemetery Sisters. He comes in. He's like the first husband, and they stab him, and he dies on his way trying to crawl to the fireplace. But so he sets all these movies up in here. He's got kind of and from what I can tell, I mean, this is just he's got this thing about addiction, right? Like so. Criminally Insane, she kills anyone who makes her stop eating. Is that right?
Yeah, basically her in Criminally Insane. We should just call this podcast the Nick Millard podcast by this point.
Yeah,
because they all tie together. That's the weird thing about these movies.
Yeah,
as you said earlier, it's a weird like world almost that he created just because of his ineptitude.
Right. Well, right. I mean, it's about not having any money and like working with what he has, and not attempting to go big, but instead just be like, you know what I've got? I've got a condo, and I've got a camera, and I've got a wife, and I've got a mother, and I've got these two actors, and I can just do it. And I mean, it's pretty amazing to watch it happen because it's shockingly simple, and yet extremely confusing, like at the same time. Like not only is it super simple, it's super confusing because and I just recently watched Cemetery Sisters, and so I was in like this surreal place of like, wow, there's that shot again, the exact same shot.
Right.
And he uses the Criminally Insane footage in all three of his movies that I've seen, in basically the same way. It's like this shot of a cemetery that's kind of like sideways in black and white, and kind of out of focus, and then there's like a weird person walking, and then it cuts to Edith slash whatever her name is in Criminally Insane killing Ethel, just killing people, and you get to see that footage over and over and over.
There's also a part of that footage where she's like, it's like negative art.
Yeah, right,
and
right.
She's chopping up a mannequin.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Criminally Insane, the plot for that movie is, pretty much the plot is, Ethel's, crazy fat Ethel, her mom puts a padlock on the pantry and on the fridge, so she flips out and kills her.
Yeah.
And then her sister comes to live with her, and she doesn't know where the mom is, and she ends up killing the sister, and then she puts on a robe and walks around.
Because she wants to eat.
Yeah, because she wants to eat.
Because she's real fat, and she wants to eat.
Because fat people lust over food. That's all there is.
That's the point. That's the point.
That's it.
That's what it is. I should note. So, all right. Nick Millard is totally. I mean, like, he goes along with all this stuff. Like, so Jesus. I forget I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He runs Slasher Video, and he's kind of become friends with this Nick Millard, and that's how we got to see them. Because he put out all these DVDs. And on the newest one, on the Cemetery Sisters release, Nick Millard, he has this interview with him, and then at the end, he makes a short film for Jesus. And it's a remake of a scene from Cemetery Sisters that he was in. And it got me thinking about this movie a lot, in that so the first film here is basically the same thing as the second film, except that it ends differently. Right? Like it's basically the exact same thing happens, except you get an awesome sequence where a woman wants white wine, and...
Well, yeah, go
continue.
ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, so he's got this, it's almost this circular vision of how these characters will be in, like, this continuous cycle for the rest of eternity.
Right. I guess we could, I mean, this is kind of just a scattershot. We could just talk about Death Nurse 2. So basically finishing up the plot of Death Nurse 1, the social worker comes, she drops off patients. The patients are killed for the county's money. The social worker then decides, oh, this seems like a really great place to relax, and I need some time. So she ends up checking into the clinic.
She's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's... I don't want to be too terribly crude here, but Nick Millard's mom in a nightgown is something you don't want to see. I'll just say that. She's probably like 75 years old, 80 years old at this time. You don't want to see that. But today, Edith ends up killing her. And I also should mention that everybody that she kills, she feeds to the rats in the basement / garage.
Yep.
So that's the connective. Oh well, that's how they're gonna get caught, right?
Yep. And she also feeds the rats to the patients.
Yeah.
She'll go down and kill a rat, cook it, bring it to the patients, and then once the patients die, she'll bring them down to the rats.
Mm-hmm. So it's a cycle, the circle of life. Yep. So then, remembering correctly, Death Nurse 2, pretty much the same thing. There's another. Is she a social worker? I didn't watch this the last couple weeks.
Yeah. It's
a social worker again.
Yes.
Or is it just her sister?
Brownie, you mean?
No, the social worker's.
Well, so it starts with it starts at the exact spot that the first one ends. So the first one ends with the inspector. He comes to look. He sees a dead body. He goes upstairs to knock on the door, and Edith kills him.
Right.
Then it starts right there at the second one with the most confusing editing I've ever seen in anything. And then cuts to a guy who's just taken over the social worker's patients, basically.
Oh, right. Michael or whatever.
Yeah, yep. Yeah. And then he starts sending the patients back to her.
Right, and it's all because the social worker recommended Shady Palms so highly.
Yep. And
the thing... Go ahead.
Brownie gets introduced, and we should spend a little time on Brownie at some point, because she's the best part of the whole series.
That's what I was going to say. Like, Death Nurse 2, if you watch Death Nurse 1, and it's really not your thing, you probably still won't like Death Nurse 2, but Death Nurse 2 is much it is much easier to consume because there are characters.
Well, and it is everybody's thing. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you don't like Death Nurse 2, I mean, I don't understand. So Brownie takes Death Nurse 2 to a completely different level.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same actress. It's Nick Millard's wife, who's the alcoholic in the first one.
Right.
Comes back as this character named Brownie.
Mm-hmm.
She's a homeless person. She's digging in the garbage. She's wearing like a burlap sack dress. And
she takes she's digging through the dumpster. She finds some grapes, puts them in her shopping cart. She has like dirt all over her face. This new social worker comes up to her named Michael.
yeah,
And he's like, "Hey, Brownie," and she's like, "I'm gonna kill you, dirty motherfucker." And he's like, "Settle down," and he ends up saying, "Come with me," and she's basically will go with him to Shady Palms if he buys a jug of white wine.
yeah. Make it white wine, okay?
Exactly. So that's how Brownie ends up at Shady Palms. And
Yeah.
we don't know. I guess I don't understand why you would take a homeless vagrant to a medical facility or like a clinic of any kind.
Because she's an alcoholic, right? They're trying to get her clean. It's like a. Isn't that what's going on?
Yeah, I guess I still don't get it because
Yeah, I don't get it either.
a place where they perform heart surgery.
If you're my friend, how about a jug of wine? Make it white wine, okay?
Got it, Brownie. Yeah.
So then Brownie gets to the clinic
Mhm.
and brings with her a paper bag that has a giant butcher knife in it.
Which ensues in a couple of chase scenes with Priscilla Alden / Edith Mortley,
Yeah.
where they chase each other around in circles for 5
5
minutes. Yeah, that actually happens more than once in Death Nurse 2, and it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, it should be noted, Brownie's dead because Edith stabs her in the stomach like 3 times, and she puts her down with the rats, and then Brownie just wakes up
Yeah,
and just comes upstairs.
She attacks Gordon, right?
She attacks Gordon, yep.
Yeah.
And then Edith uses like a giant cleaver and cuts her down. But yeah, I mean, I think it's the character of Brownie to me is like the full extension of what you can do with movies like this.
Yeah.
It's like this incredible, over the top, crazy character that is so much fun to watch, and says these ridiculous things, and to me, it's like that is the moment that makes it like I love Nick Millard. I love these movies. I love what he's doing. It's great.
And even further in Death Nurse 2, I want to talk about the other character and then the other aspects of these movies that some might find completely unbearable and others might think are hilarious. First, the second character we're really introduced to is Misha Rudinsky.
Yep.
He is a Polish poet.
Yeah.
In real life, he's a poet, I guess.
He is not. No way.
Yeah,
That's
I think that's what I heard in the commentary track.
Oh, he's the best, like, rambling fake Russian guy ever.
Yeah. So basically, Sawyer, the social worker, picks him up outside of City Hall. He's standing by a statue, giving an anti-socialist speech.
As one does.
Yeah, and Misha has like a horseshoe haircut, and a mustache. So he's like a street preacher, and I guess the social worker thinks he's crazy or something.
Yeah.
So they bring him to Shady Palms, and there's a really weird dynamic, and I guess I don't understand if he's scared of Edith when he gets to Shady Palms.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I totally spaced out after Brownie. Like, I still was watching it, but I was not paying attention.
But basically, my remembrance of the whole thing is he comes in, he doesn't say a word, like he's silent, and even though like he was picked up like rambling and bantering on the streets, he doesn't say a word to Edith. And then he's in his room later, and she comes upstairs, and they're just like looking at each other, and there's like a 2-minute silence. Of that.
It's so great.
And he's like, capitalism is good. And it's just like, where is this coming from? Is this supposed to be some sort of political message that Nick Millard is imparting on us?
It's interesting because it's like you see him starting to get like semi-political.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I feel like these movies are semi-anti-capitalist. Like, so you've got... I also wanted to talk about this. So the Death Nurse movies are about how people take advantage of the state and like make money legitimately killing people. He's like making fun of like the whole complex of medicine. And then you get to Cemetery Sisters, and it's people who kill people so that they can make money, inherit all their money, and then take it's almost as if he's saying like the American dream itself is fake and doesn't work and isn't. I mean, I don't want to make this deeper than you can make some. But to me, it's like it's all of these movies. That's what they're about. It's about killing someone and then taking advantage of either their estate or the city itself, or it's all about building your own business on other people's pain.
Yeah, getting something in, like with Gordon in the first movie when he's having sex with Ermi for alcohol.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's like okay, well, this is horrible for you and this is killing you, but
right. But I want something from you, so I'll do this.
Right.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because it's so subtle. It kind of came up on me, and I mean I don't know how intentional it is, but whether it's intentional or not, it's there. And I think, and Irmgard, his wife, is definitely not a native English speaker, which you can tell when she says, "White line, okay?" And it's really awesome. But you get the sense that, like, she is definitely from another country, and there's a certain sense of, like, I guess, he's coming out of that porn industry, and, like, the worst that America can do, right? Take advantage of all these people, give them nothing, and say, "Oh yeah, you'll make tons. You'll be better off. We're just using you." Right. And he continues to do that over and over and over and over in everything I've seen.
Right. And I don't give him. Maybe I should, but I don't give him credit for having a thought like that making these movies.
Right. No. Sure. I mean.
At the same time, he had to have been semi-influenced by the political goings-on of the late 80s. Totally. Which that was the culture in the late 80s was gimme, gimme, gimme. I don't care what it takes. Give me that. I want it. Give it to me now.
Totally. Totally. And this whole thing with the socialist made me be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is middle of the Cold War. This is kind of the height of, that whole idea of glasnost and perestroika, and it's kind of like, we're trying to define ourselves against the Soviets in every way we can with Rambo and all these other huge movies at the time. You got Rocky IV. It's fascinating. I mean, to me, it's those astounding little things that make these little crazy movies like totally worthwhile. Definitely. You've got Irmgard Millard saying the craziest things ever as Brownie and chasing her with a knife, and then you've got like small tidbits of like political theory, which is like, wow, that's awesome.
and it's just like, hey, let's kick this character in, let's
right,
this little thing in.
Totally. And then let's have and the other thing I think is in 60 minutes of a film, he's got. I mean, what do you think? Like 45 minutes of padding? Probably.
It'd probably have to be around the 40-minute mark. Yeah, like the padding is unbelievable. If you don't know what padding is, it's basically they're showing a scene and extending it out way too long just to extend the running time.
Yep.
Like the first and greatest, I think, is it the first when Gordon goes in and digging a grave. Well, he digs a grave for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's really hard work.
And then he goes inside. Because it's such hard work, he goes to the freezer, grabs some ice cream. He then dishes out a bowl of ice cream, and we watch him dish out an entire bowl of ice cream, take a little taste here and there, nonchalant, just taste, nothing happens. He just dishes out a bowl of ice cream. There's no different camera work. It's just one set shot of him dishing ice cream. So, there's a lot of instances of things like this. There's a scene where there's a performing heart surgery in the first movie, and I guess there's a cat.
Yeah, but we don't see the cat.
Yeah, we don't see the cat, and then the cat somehow steals the heart. And they chase... Gordon and Edith chase around a cat that they can't see they're chasing, and they intercut that with shots of a cat meowing next to like a liver or something. And that's a good 3, 4, 5 minutes. And then, as we discussed, all the criminally insane footage, which they go to about 6 times per movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, in the criminally insane footage, I mean, it's almost. I'll probably try to play the audio from it at the end of this podcast. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's so weird and so disorienting because he keeps editing so that it looks like she's running at the camera and then it stops, and then she's running at the camera and it stops, and it's just like this strange.
And then it's negative
bizarre.
art, and then it's chopping up a mannequin and chopping up a dude, and then
Yep.
But and I'd say the padding is less. There's less in Death Nurse 2, but there's probably more criminally insane.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think, the criminally insane stuff in its own way is padding, right? It's just kind of like, we need to get this 20-minute movie to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
What do we have?
Well,
I mean,
and I don't know exactly why the 60-minute mark was the okay, 60 minutes.
Right. I wonder if to get it into a video store, it had to have like a run time that.
That's the thing that's interesting is the first one. I'm not completely sure if this is actually the case, so don't completely quote me on this. The first one was released by Video City Productions under their Chop 'em Ups line of videos at the time. They made a separate line for slasher movies.
Okay.
I think only 1 or 2 were released on that label.
Sure.
But the second one I don't think came out.
Okay.
I don't think it came out in the U.S.
Okay.
I could be completely wrong. Maybe it did, and it was very, very rare.
Yeah.
I think I've seen like a German VHS of it, and I don't know if it was released in the U.S.
Okay.
But that's also 60 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and Cemetery Sisters is 61 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he definitely. Well, and Cemetery Sisters at the same time. I mean, he uses about the same amount of padding, but the criminally insane stuff is incredibly out of place. Like they don't even do it as like a dream sequence. It's like unclear as to why it's even happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember it came up and I was like, "What? Like what just happened? Why am I suddenly seeing this footage now?"
Right. Well, yeah, it makes even less sense to be in a movie where Priscilla Alden's not even in it.
Right, exactly.
And that leaves a lot of people thinking, are the Death Nurse movies sequels to Criminally Insane?
Right. Interesting.
And in fact, there is a Criminally Insane 2.
Okay. We'll have to check that out.
I think it's on the disc that I have with Criminally Insane 1 on it.
Okay. Got it.
It's another one I watched 20 minutes of, and I was like, I don't think I can do this right now.
Right. Well, in so many of these movies, I think, we watch them separately only because we have to. Mm-hmm. Like, if I could watch them with you, I think I could enjoy them in a different way. Like, I definitely enjoy them, and I laugh at them. But when you're laughing by yourself watching these movies, there's also, like, this sad loneliness that comes with that, right? You're like,
and that's kind of the whole thing behind this blog and this podcast is it kind of started so we could try to share the experience of watching these movies together, but we can't because we're 1,700 miles away or whatever it is. So
right, but at the same time, we are enjoying them together, right? And and we wanted to enjoy it with as many people as possible, which is why we're doing the podcast and the website and all that stuff. So
yeah,
but I mean, I don't really know what else to say about Nick Millard. I mean, there's this. What I would say is this: I would recommend hunting down all of the stuff of his you can find. It's fascinating, like American underground strange filmmaking, in a way that's more independent than about anything you'll ever see.
Yeah, I mean, it was shot in a condo with a beta cam.
Yeah, I mean, nobody told these guys anything. I mean, there was no. I mean, obviously there was some type of like get to 60 minutes mark that somewhat, made them have some type of backbone that they needed to follow. But in the most part, I mean, these guys are doing whatever they want with whoever they want when they want to do it. Right. And the strangeness of what comes out of that is so much more bizarre than anything you'll see come out of a studio ever.
Right.
And in that way, so much more unique. I mean, I was trying to think of something to compare this to, and I tried for a long time, and I got nothing. I mean, there's nothing.
Well, I guess we can kind of run through where you can see these movies. It looks like on Amazon, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can watch Criminally Insane for free. You can rent it for $1.99. Or buy it for $5 digitally, which we don't recommend because we're not fans of digital media, as you probably know from if you've read the website. The DVD is $15, and it's Criminally Insane is the precursor to Death Nurse. So if you have interest in Death Nurse, certainly check it out. To buy Death Nurse 1 and 2, you can buy those through Amazon as well.
You can also usually get them on eBay. I feel like Slasher Video does it that way too.
Yeah, Jesus from Slasher Video lists his stuff on eBay and on Amazon. So if you search for Death Nurse, it's Death Nurse 25th Anniversary Edition, and there's also a Death Nurse 2 25th Anniversary Edition, and they're $16 each.
Yeah.
And Cemetery Sisters is also on eBay and Amazon.
Yep.
And there's something of note that's really interesting that you completely unexpected. As John had said before, Jesus from Slasher Video seemed to have forged a friendship with Nick Millard, which is interesting. And there are special features on these discs. There are quite a few. As I said, there are audio commentaries on each one. There are featurettes. Death Nurse 2 has its another short film featuring Brownie on the special features. Which is new, and also just Q&A type of stuff. It's kind of it's interesting. So certainly support what he's doing at Slasher Video.
Totally.
I feel like everything he's put out so far is pretty much great stuff. So.
Oh yeah, and I think like Cemetery Sisters too. Like he did a great job with that release, and it's one of these it's the only movie that'll ever be released on the PlayStation Connect cases or something.
The Xbox Connect, yeah.
And it's only it's limited to 200 copies ever, and he does this special art in it. He's got like a little movie he made with Nick Millard, which as I was saying earlier is just this tiny remake of a scene he had already put into the movie. But it's so strange to see him now as like a 65-year-old get stabbed in the back by his wife and slowly crawl. I mean, it's just it's this surreal experience. And I think Cemetery Sisters, I mean, personally, I thought it was super fun. I really enjoyed it. I think just as much as Death Nurse 1, maybe not quite as much as 2 because Brownie puts it over the edge. But I mean, there are a few people who do things as well and put as much care into little tiny films like this as Slasher Video. I mean, they're doing really great stuff, and I think you should support them if you can.
Yeah, and granted, he also did release Boarding House, which if you've ever heard of Boarding House, you probably know what that is, and that movie is phenomenal. The DVD is phenomenal for that.
Yeah.
I don't want this to turn into too much of a plug, but it kind of has to be because he's doing some great stuff.
Yeah, and there's just not very many people who are. Right. I don't think there's that many people doing as good a job as he is.
Right. So yeah, I guess.
So there you go.
That's the Death Nurse series, if you could call it that. The Nick Millard overview. Yeah.
There it is. Feel free to check us out at allstarvideo.blogspot.com. This is John Rett from Minneapolis.
And Matt in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Word.